Hi, this is Judy from Fox Cities Quilt Company, and this is Sunday from the Sewing Room, where we give you tips, tricks, and a few tutorials to help you with your sewing and quilting projects. If you like our videos, please hit that subscribe button below. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a certain ruler that I really love. People come in the shop all the time, and they're asking me, Judy, is it worth getting that Stripology ruler? And the short answer is heck yeah. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This is the Stripology ruler. I know that I have shown you this ruler before, but it makes great work and makes your cutting life so much faster. I use it for every single quilt that I make because I cut bindings in no time at all. But there's another way that I use this ruler to make cutting squares and many other things faster than I ever have. It cuts my cutting time down, I would say 30%. So for instance, I am cutting this right now from from Pieces to Treasure. This is a quilt called the Tuxedo Junction quilt. And in here, it calls for 144 of one colorway of squares, of 2-inch squares, and it calls for 72 of 3.5-inch squares. And that's a lot of cutting. And not only that, but this quilt takes fat quarters. So to square up and cut all of those fat quarters, that would take a whole lot of time, even longer than it would take to cut yardage. So I am going to turn the camera around and I am going to show you exactly what I am talking about. I am going to cut 72 3.5-inch squares from fat quarters. I'll spit the words out, I promise. I'm going to cut 3.5-inch squares from fat quarters using my Stripology ruler in no time flat. Let me show you how. All right, so here are the fat quarters that I need to cut. I need 72 3.5-inch squares from this stack of fat quarters. There's 5 of them here. I've got them all prepared. I've got them all starched. And when I am cutting fat quarters, particularly wovens, because these are wovens, I really make sure that I starch them very well. So I have them all stacked up as best as I can. Because of my pattern, I know that I have a little leeway and that if I make a mistake, I'm still going to have plenty of fabric. So that's the one thing I always check. So there's 5 of them. I'm going to go ahead and fold the entire stack in half, just like this. And I want to make sure that there are no creases or lumps or bumps in there, and there aren't any because I can feel it just fine. All right, I have my camera up nice and high because I'm hoping you get to see this whole thing. Now I'm going to grab my Stripology ruler, and I am going to turn my Stripology ruler. I'm trying to do this on the table as well as in the camera to make sure that you can see everything, and it looks like you can. So let me move this light down so it's not glaring too much at you, and let me move one more light down so there's not a whole lot of glare. And let's see if that works better. And oh good, that's a little better. Okay, so now what I've done is I laid my Stripology ruler on here just like you do anything else. I have plenty to square up here. I made sure that I've lined this up as best I can so that when I do go and square this up at 0, I will have cut all of them. And now I'm going to cut this whole stack 10, so it's going to be 10 layers in 3.5-inch strips. And of course I made sure that I had a nice sharp blade in my rotary cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and square up at 0. And I've cut through all of those layers. So now remember, I need 72 3.5-inch squares. So I'm going to cut it 3.5 and 7, 10.5, and that should be plenty. So I need 3 strips. And I'm going to pull the extra away. And then I am also going to pull what I squared up away. Okay? And I will discard that. Now what I can do is, after I'm done pulling all that away, I have 3.5 inch strips. Now, I hope you're timing this. We are just shy of 3 minutes into this video, and I have 15 3.5 inch strips cut. Now I'm going to lay them this way. So horizontally, I cut vertically, and now I'm going to lay these horizontally, and I am going to lay these all out nice and flat. And you can see that I'm kind of lining them up with a line on my rotary mat. And that's so that I make sure that they're straight all the way across. The other nice thing about the Stripology ruler is that when you're cutting, you also know that you're being accurate. So because of the slots in the Stripology ruler for you. And so now I have these all set. I'm going to lay that Stripology ruler right back on there. And I am going to line up this with the bottom. This looks a little crooked here, so I'm going to straighten that up just a little bit. And I'm going to straighten that one up just a little bit. Then if I want to, I can make sure that I have these all on a line. And I'm going to move this up to make sure that I'm all good. It looks pretty darn good. Just going to straighten this up a hair. And I'm going to straighten this up a hair too. I just want to make sure that I'm getting these all straight so that they are 3.5 inches. Okay, I'm all set there. And so now I am going to take my rotary cutter and again, square it up to 0. And now I'm going to, I need at least 14 from each one. If I do this, I know I'm going to get 5. So that's 15. So let's see what I get here. So 3.5, 7, 10.5, 14, and 3.5 is 17.5. And just like that, I now have 72 3.5 inch squares all set. Oh, I cut that one wrong. Yep, I cut one wrong. Did you see that? Good thing I have extra, but these are all 3.5 inches. I cut in the wrong spot. How come you didn't tell me? But again, I had plenty left over, so all I need to do is cut these down. And I will be just fine. And there you go. So if you cut them in the right spots, you will have 72 3.5 inch squares. So here's 45. And 45. So we will have plenty. So there you have it with the Stripology ruler, and even with my mistake, in about 4 minutes, I was able to cut 72 3.5 inch squares. So if somebody tells you, oh, I don't know, I don't think that Stripology ruler is worth it, you tell them it certainly is, because who can cut 72 3.5 inches squares in under 5 minutes. This is Judy from Fox Cities Quilt Company. I hope you enjoyed this video and this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.